Okay, people say, oh, you can't be perfect. I think you can be in certain things. And so this is one area we're going to try and be perfect at. Okay, now we're just going to have to eliminate some little mistakes here and there, but overall we're going to try and be perfect. So what I thought I'd start with this morning before we launched into solving equations 2, which are really an extension of what we did yesterday. It's just a little bit more to it. So yesterday's lesson, we looked at here, we looked at solving two-step linear equations with brackets, etc. And then on overnight, you were looking at worksheet 4. Okay, and there was the questions there all revolved around solving equations, expanding brackets, etc. Okay, so that was our job overnight. So what we're going to add to the mix this morning, and as I said, girls, get those hands in the air. Any questions, anything I do, please, 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 with sugar on top, put the hands in the air and I'll stop straight away. I'm going to mess around a little bit this morning with you in terms of fractions. Now, normally, if we were normally at school face-to-face, I would have done some rationals of fractions with you prior to this, but it's something I wanted to leave until we got back in person. Okay, so we're going to just be crossing a few bridges at once here. This question here, there's 3 that I'm going to do with you this morning specifically. Study this one carefully. And here's a weird question for you, but I want you to try and answer it for me. What do you think one of the most common errors students make when they start this question? If you could help me out there. Just open your mic if you think you've got an opinion. One of the most common mistakes a student makes. Remember, we're trying to solve. Trying to solve this equation. Georgia, what do you think?
They cancel out the 3 and the 6.
You got it. That's it. Now that is a big no-no. If you didn't hear Georgia there, a lot of students will attack the 3 and the 6 and they'll try and cancel it. Girls, if you've got your pens there, you've got your OneNotes open and you're taking notes, this is important. You can only cancel or products. If it's not a product, you cannot cancel top and bottom. So if I read that top properly, it's 4x plus 3. So that's the first job. It's 4x plus 3. Then I divide by 6. So there is no product between the 4x and the 3. Okay, we cannot cancel that. Even to remind myself about that, I tell myself, and I've taught myself this since grade 10, if there is more than one term in the numerator, even if I'm not going to use it, I will put a set of brackets around that to remind me that that numerator is one whole thing. It's one whole item. I cannot touch it. Girls, I can't stress this enough. It's going to get a little bit confusing as this topic goes on, because you'll see the fractions will appear in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and we're going to have to react and deal with them as they come up. I'm trying to get my eraser to work here. Shouldn't have written it so big. So something else I meant to tell you yesterday, and I just, in all the excitement of online learning, a little trick, a little clue I use, because people will look at that question and go, gee, I've got a 4, I've got a 3, I've got a 6. I've got to get rid of all of them. What order do I do it in? Here's a little way you might like, and it worked for me when I was in year 10. I look at the x, okay, and I say to myself, okay, what's the first thing that's happening to the x? I'm timesing by 4. Agreed? Then I add 3. Then I divide by 6. They're the 3 things that are happening to the x. Agreed? So when I want to solve it, I simply undo it in the reverse order. So the first thing that's going to disappear is the divide by 6. And how do I manage that? If it's divide by 6 on the left-hand side, change sides, inverse operations, it'll be times by 6. So that's my first step. The next job I've got to do is get rid of the 3. Well, now we should be pretty cool. Plus 3 on the right-hand side is going to be minus 3. Times by 4 on the right side. Oh, my pen. Look at this. I'm having a shocker this morning. On the right-hand side, 9 on 4. Okay, so this is called backtracking. Sometimes it's really useful to backtrack if you're not sure what to do first. Grab a second one. So different sort of fraction here. Okay, 2x over 3 minus 7 equals 8. And again, this is where the backtracking might become useful. So what's happening to x? You're timesing by 2, then you're dividing by 3, and then you're subtracting 7. So if I was to solve that, the first thing I'm going to get rid of is the minus 7. Minus 7 plus 7, 15. Then the divide by 3. Divide by 3 times by 3. Divide by 2. We got it. So I'm just presenting you with a number of different scenarios, options, girls, that we're going to see in this next exercise. Have a look at this one. First hand of the year gets the prize. What is the very first thing you'd suggest I do here? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Some hands up. What's the very first thing you'd suggest I do here? There, Georgie, you're first in there. What is it?
Put the brackets on.
Got it. Put the brackets on. Camilla, agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, brackets. First of all, first thing we do, more than one term in the numerator, brackets. Okay, so I just bounce this question around the class. I won't ask for hands up here. Just looking down my list here. Isabel Jeanette. I have to use a middle name now because there's a couple of Isabels. Isabel Jeanette, what happens? What's going on in your head about what we do next?
Would you do the divided by 7 like times it?
Got it. Good girl. The biggest pain in the backsides are these two. They're a pain. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a fan of fractions. Not a huge fan of fractions, right? Okay. So here's what I'd do, and I'd do exactly what Isabel suggested. I'd take that first one I'm going to attack is the 7. So now be patient. You can do it in one step. That's divide by 7. So over on the other side, it's going to be times by 7. Now you can do this and you can move the 7 and the 4 in one step if you like. And then just on the right hand side, it's still divide by 4. Bingo. Now, a lot of you, I'm more than happy you jump straight to there. Right, divide by 7, take it across. Divide by 4, take it across. Right, now once we get to that point, after the work we've done this week, we should be pretty cool here. 8x plus 48. I'll stop reading it out. Expand the brackets. Right, letters with letters, numbers with numbers. I'm going to move this one over to here, which means that one is coming over to there. So 48, excuse me, minus 35 is 21x minus 8x. So 13, if someone's keeping an eye on me here, equals 13x. Therefore, I think x is 1. Right? And we can check it. Go right back to the start. Left-hand side will equal 2 times 1 is 2 plus 12 is 14 divided by 7 is 2. Right-hand side, 3 1s are 3 plus 5 is 8 divided by 4 is 2. We have a bingo. So those three, I'll drop this into our OneNote. So don't panic. I'll drop this into your OneNote and share it out with you. But just fractions are a pain in the neck. Oh, I've got a hand up. Who have I got there? Can't see the hand at the moment. 2 seconds. Let's see if I can do better. Just open your mic. I can't. It hasn't shown up.
Hi, sorry, I'm fine with all of this. I was just wondering, for like when we do like the worksheets, do we always have to check? Because I haven't been like.
No, look, that's a good point. And I'm talking to, I think it's
Matilda.
Matilda. Thank you, Matilda. Yeah, look, here's my advice to you, Matilda. If it's an exam, right, I would do the exam question, right?
Yep.
And leave a little bit of room for the check. Agree? So, you know, at the end of the exam, if you get time at the end of the exam, I would then go back and just check my answers. The advantage of doing the check, Matilda, is you know you're right or wrong. Right? It's just.
Yeah, okay, thank you. But for
As the word suggests, Matilda, it's a check.
Yeah, but just for the worksheets, like when we're just doing them, do you want us to do? Okay, thank you.
No. Just if you like, just do what every so often. At worst, yeah, just to make sure you remember the process, left-hand side, right-hand side. So maybe every fourth one, Matilda. Just to keep
Okay, thank you.
Cheers, mate. Gracie, well, Grace, sorry, I've got another Gracie in another class, so I'll make sure I call you Grace. Grace.
Thanks. If it's like you're checking the right-hand side and left-hand side and it's 2 and x equals 1, how does that work?
Good girl. Right, so you've got to remember what we are actually trying to do here at the very start. We are trying to find, if I have to rewrite this because it's a disaster. We are trying to find a value of x that will make, and this is the statement in mathematics, it's very important. We're trying to find a value of x that I could put into both sides that makes both sides the same. I want to balance the scales. I want the left-hand side to equal the right-hand side, right? So x can be any number we like. Okay, but there's only going to be one answer, one value of x that makes the left-hand side exactly the same as the right-hand side. For example, if I said x was 2, my left-hand side would be 2 2s are 4, 16 on 7. My right-hand side would be 6, 11 on 4. They're not the same, are they?
No.
Grace? No, they're not. So that is not the solution. We're trying to find a value of x that I can put into there that makes the left-hand side be exactly the same as the right-hand side. So that's the value of x, right? There. And what it does is if I substitute it into the left-hand side, it makes the left-hand side equal a value of 2. And it also makes the right-hand side equal a value of 2. So that means that both the left-hand side and the right-hand side are in fact equal. It's not the x value that we're worried about. It's the value of the equation with that x value. Sorry, my big fat head's in the way of all of that. Sorry, that's a lot better. Is that now? You've made a good point, Grace. The x value simply helps us evaluate the equation. Okay, and we're looking for a very special x value that makes the two equations be exactly the same. Is that any good, Grace?
Yes, thank you.
You sure? That's a good question to get your head around. I like that question. Okay, so you'll see in today's worksheet 5, they're very similar. There's only 2 questions, very similar to what you and I have just been doing. It's a mixture of fractions and making sure you get your orders right. And there's more fraction ones. Okay, I don't think that's it. So worksheet 5's only got those 2 equations, those 2 questions in it. Today's lesson, it's very, very good, very, very simple. All we're doing is looking at it in terms of word equations. And I'm only going to do one example, and I'm going to leave you be. Okay, we're going to work through this one and then we're finished. So it's be a nice lesson for you today. We're going to take what we've already studied in mathematics in terms of equations, and we're going to see what happens when we get a word equation like this. Okay, and they're always a little bit harder because the first step you've got to do is turn it into an equation. So here we go. I'll read it once. Always read it once. Julie and Liam write down the same number. That's a clue. Julie multiplies the number by 5 and then adds 4 to the result. She writes down her answer. Liam subtracts the number from 10. He writes down his answer. Julie's answer is 2/3 of Liam's answer. Work out the number that Julie and Liam said. Oh my gosh. Okay. Wonderful. So if you're anything like me, you're sitting there going, okay, do it piecemeal, do it step by step. So basically they write down the same number, which we don't know what it is. So the first thing I'm going to do, it's an unknown. I'm going to tell the reader that we don't know what the number is. Must do that, right? Write down what we define as our variable. I don't know what the number is. Okay, all I know is Liam and Julie write down the same number. Step 2. So I've dealt with that. Julie, okay, let's deal with Julie. Let's see if we can get Julie organized. Julie multiplies the number by 5. That's cool. And adds 4. She writes down her answer. Okay, cool. If we knew what x was, if x was 2, her number would be 14. If X was 3, her number would be 19. But we don't know what Julie's number is. Let's have a look at Liam. Liam subtracts the number from 10. Now that is very dangerous in maths, the way they've written that. He subtracts the number, the unknown number, from 10. So be careful there. That's how we write it. He subtracts the number from 10. Cool? He writes down his answer. So that's cool. Now, the fun part. Julie's answer is 2/3 of Liam's answer. So Julie's answer is equal to 2/3 of Liam's answer. That's the tricky line. And that's why I look at my setting out. It's clear, it's concise, and it makes it easy for it to be put together. Right? So there we have it. Let the number be X, translate it, write an equation. Now we just get to work and solve. Okay? Divide by 3. I'll move quickly here unless I see a hand up at this point. And if anybody corrects me, yell at me. I think, I get a few hands up, so I must have done something wrong. Let me just check, see if I can find my mistake. Got it. There, got it. Thank you. I think I see it. That should be 19, shouldn't it? Marley, is that what you're chasing me about?
No, I actually have a question.
Okay, cool. Marley, fire.
I don't understand how you went from 2/3 to then going like 3 times the brackets and then 2 times the brackets.
Brilliant, good girl. So my biggest problem, always think of me, as terrible as that sounds. Let me just change my presentation mode, because that's very distracting having my big bald head in the middle of it. Okay, always think of me when you see this sort of question. Okay, Marley, I don't do fractions very well. So my first job, I'm looking at this equation here, yeah?
Okay.
And I'm thinking, right, what do I do first? The first thing that I want to target is that. And the operation there, Marley, is divide by 3. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to take that over to the left-hand side. What's the inverse operation of divide by 3?
Times by 3.
Bang. Right? So I took that across. Now, look at my second line. I'm so much happier with my second line than that first line, because A, I don't have any fractions. I got brackets, but I can do brackets. I'm okay with brackets. But can you see what my logic there, Julie, Marley?
Yes.
How are you happy with that?
Yeah, I understand it. Like if I saw an equation, I'd do that, but I don't understand why. But that doesn't really matter.
Because what we're trying to do, ultimately what we're trying to do in this whole messy process, and it is a messy process, we are trying to get X on its own. Right? Yeah. That's the whole goal. So it's almost like a Rubik's Cube or a Sudoku puzzle or a big bloody Jenga pile. We're trying to shuffle everything around in these equations, and we're trying to simplify and manipulate to get X on its own. All right? It's like getting out of a maze. So we're trying to use all our mathematical skill to make that happen. So I took the 3 across. I expanded the brackets. Then I grouped my like terms. Then I simplified, and lo and behold, eventually I get X on its own. And the reason that's really important is that tells me the answer I'm looking for. Okay. So it really is a big game, Marley, okay, to get X on its own. And we pull every trick we got in the toolbox to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Keep asking that question. That's a good question. I love it when you ask me about the why are we doing that, right? Okay, Jessica.
Hi. Sorry. So, with the 2/3, the question says her answer is 2/3 of Liam's answer, but I'm just a little confused on how to work out if you put the 2/3 on Julie's answer or Liam's answer, if that makes sense.
Right, good girl. Well, let's see. So Julie's answer has to be the smaller one, hasn't it? Because her answer is a fraction of Liam's. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Cool. So here's 2 numbers. Okay, so how do I find 2/3 of 30? So I times it by 2/3. Of means multiply. So 2/3 of 30 is 20. Agreed? So there's the smaller of the two. So Julie was 2/3 of Liam. So Julie has definitely got the lesser of the two, the smaller of the two quantities, right? And in mathematics, the way we write 2/3 of is multiply.
Okay.
Okay, let's try another one. Just say, let's have a look here. See if I can do it another way. Just say, okay, Jessica, you earn half of what I earn. All right? If we were working. Happy?
Yeah.
Okay. How would we write that? Well, I don't know what Mr. Crapnell earns. Yeah. But I do know that me, Jessica, will earn 1/2 of what he earns.
Oh, okay, I get it now.
Right? The language is really tricky, Jessica. It really is tricky. Okay? And they use all these, like the word of implies multiplication. The biggest hassle is, who do I take 1/3 of? Who do I take 2/3 of? Is it him or her? Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And that, Jess, is exactly why the word problems are a pain in the backside. I'm allowed to say that on a recorded lesson to year 10. Okay?
Thank you.
Camilla,
Yeah.
no worries. Camilla, what can I rip you off for?
I was just wondering if Jessica was going to, Julie was going to have the smaller, like, number.
Mm-hmm.
How come that we took the 3 over to her side?
Because, okay, good girl. Everything comes from the way we establish that equation, okay? And then after that, once we've got our equation established correctly, then we just have to follow the mathematics, okay? We were told that Julie, whatever that equation was 2/3 of Liam, yeah? You happy with what I got there, champ? Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, no matter what happens now, we don't have any choices. We have to solve that equation, right? As long as we've established this correctly, which I think we did here, I think we got that bang on. So now we just have to manipulate that, okay? So I've got divide by 3. So my only logical first step, and I agree with what you're saying, you're sort of saying, gee, that's almost counterintuitive. That doesn't sort of make sense. I'm multiplying Julie by 3, but she's the smaller value. Okay, but it's what we've got to do. If I go back to, I can't remember the lovely girl's question at the start. It's the process we have to go through to solve it, right? We don't have a lot of choice when it comes to the mathematics. Once we've established, you got no problems with my equation. Just check, let's go back, good. So once we get to that point there, we don't have a choice. The only way that I can solve this equation here, once I'm happy with it, there's Julie, and she's 2/3 of Liam. I don't have a choice there. Once I've established that as correct, then I've got to use all my mathematical skill, okay, to solve it. And to solve it, that's how I do it. I move the 3. As weird as you're saying it looks, to put a 3 next to Julie, okay? Ultimately, in the long term, it works out as the right plan of attack.
So if there was like another question which involved a fraction like this, would I just move the bottom number to the
I
left?
always do. It just makes my job much easier, Camilla. I don't like fractions. So whatever equation, as long as I've got this first equation correct, that's the critical one. Then my mathematics takes over.
Yeah.
Okay. And if it says divide by 3, I'm going to be timesing by 3 on the other side, because it's going to help me in the long run.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a look at some of the word ones coming up, Camilla. It might help make a bit more sense of it for you. And if not, now we don't meet Monday, by the way. Apparently they've cancelled period 3. We don't see each other till Tuesday. Grace, what can I do for you, champ?
In the question, it says the number that they started with, and if x equals 8 over 19, is that like, do you want it a whole number or leave it as a fraction?
Yeah, you got no choice there, mate. That's an ugly fraction. Yeah, it's just a real unattractive fraction, and that's it. That's it. Now get used to that. That's a really good question by Grace. Not all your numbers are going to be nice and pretty. They're not always going to be 4 and 6 and 7. I'll be honest with you, the first time I got that answer, I went, oh, what have I done wrong? Okay, that was my first reaction. What have I stuffed up? Okay, sometimes, and more often than not, you know, life is messy. Life's not neat and tidy, and numbers and maths aren't always neat and tidy. So that's, unfortunately, as ugly as it looks, that's our answer. I would leave it like that because that's the exact answer. If I converted that into a decimal, I'd be rounding off. Wherever possible, leave it as the exact answer. Okay, now, today, what we're going to do now, you've got worksheet 5 to work with. Sorry, you've got 15 minutes left in the lesson, so you probably get into worksheet 5 now. The word problems are there, right? And look, do your best. 4 consecutive numbers is 38. I'm dying to see what you do there. Okay, I'm really interested to see how you construct an equation for that one. That is, I'm genuinely interested. And listen, if you get stuck, come down here, have a look at it. What's he done there? What's he done? Oh, I see what he's done. The solutions are there to help you. Okay, you don't have to hide from them. If you're stuck, go and have a look what I've done. So there's 7 questions there, right? They're the word problems. And don't forget also, Mr. Crapknot drivers, you've got in your assignments, it's dropped already, quiz 3. So the way you might want to do it, this is just a suggestion. You might think, well, I've only got 15 minutes left in class today. I might do that today. That's Friday. I might do that Saturday, and I've got Sunday and Monday to do those. Spread your load out over the weekend. We meet on Tuesday, period 3. So I want to walk in Tuesday, period 3, and you've attempted, not perfect, but attempted 5 and 8. And then we can start Friday. Oh, look at that. I've actually listed it as no lesson, and I put work in there. Not very intelligent, Mr. Cracknell. Oh, no, because we're still working on that. And then we walk in on Tuesday's lesson having attempted 5 and 8, and you've got some questions for me. Any queries about that? That's us done. I'll just stop the recording for a moment. So we've got a couple.